It is common among cooks to refer to any food browning under heat as caramelization. People will say that meat is caramelized when it gets a good crust on it, or bread. Is this wrong? Well, I think it depends on what you mean by wrong. There are multiple browning reactions that happen in food, and caramelization is but one of them. All the food browning reactions can be sorted into two categories: enzymatic and non-enzymatic browning. Enzymatic is the kind of browning that happens when you cut fruit and leave it open to the air. It's a kind of oxidation. Plants naturally biosynthesize a broad class of chemicals known as phenols. Phenols are involved in lots of the beautiful colors and delicious smells that attract pollinators to plants, or that attract fruit-eating animals like us, who might help the plant reproduce by taking the fruit somewhere else to eat it and thereby dropping the seeds somewhere. When you cut the fruit, you bust through cell walls and release an enzyme, which is a kind of protein, called polyphenol oxidase. You also expose the cut surface to air, and in the presence of oxygen, polyphenol oxidase oxidizes the phenols, or chemically changes them with oxygen into new things, specifically in this case, quinones, which are another class of organic compounds that are toxic to microorganisms and yucky to insects. Basically, when the plant is wounded, it produces this layer of polymerized quinones to protect itself. It's a kind of band-aid. The quinones then react with proteins and free amino acids in the fruit to produce a class of brown-colored compounds known as melanin. Yes, melanin. The stuff that makes fruit brown is the same stuff that makes people brown. It's fun that we can use science to better understand each other. Just as we can use language to better understand each other with Babel, sponsor of this video. I have this dream of going to Indonesia to scout aquarium plants on Borneo. So I'm gonna need to learn at least a few words of Indonesian with Babel, an award-winning app that makes learning a new language super simple. You can learn American or European Spanish, Italian, Turkish, all kinds of things. Babel courses are created by over 200 language experts. It's like having a private tutor in your pocket. I like how you can practice actually talking with enhanced speech recognition and an in-app conversation partner.
Selamat sore.
Selamat sore.
Babel has over 25 million subscriptions sold, over 1.6 million 5-star App Store ratings. It's tough for me, but I just think that the phonology of Indonesian is so colorful and fun, like the aquarium plants that I hope to find there. To start speaking a new language in 3 weeks, click the link in the description or go to babbel.com/Ragusia. You'll get up to 55% off your subscription. That's up to 55% off your subscription when you use my link. Join the millions of Babel learners breaking the language barrier every day with babbel.com/Ragusia. Anyway, we were just talking about enzymatic browning, like when you cut fruit and leave it out. And none of that is caramelization. Caramelization is one of the two non-enzymatic browning reactions in food, both of which can be observed via this little s'mores maker toy that my kids won at one of those kiddie casino arcades. We kind of love it. Caramelization is something that happens when sugar meets heat. Only heat and sugar are involved. How much heat is required depends on the pH of the environment and on which sugar you are caramelizing. In low pH, acidic conditions, fructose can caramelize at just over the boiling point, which is not very hot at all. That's why high fructose foods are more likely to have those caramel flavor notes. Glucose caramelizes at low baking temperatures. Sucrose caramelizes at normal baking temperatures. One hypothesis as to why 350 Fahrenheit, 180 Celsius is a common default oven temperature is that it's sort of the lowest heat that is likely to caramelize most sugars, though maltose needs it a little bit hotter than that. And what is this caramelization? Basically, it's just the sugars breaking apart and reforming into a million new organic compounds. Some of the sugars polymerize or link together into giant structures known as caramelons, caramelins, and caramelins. Solid naming convention there, science. No opportunity for confusion at all. Anyway, these big sugar polymers absorb light, and so they look brown. You also get a lot of much smaller volatile molecules that easily vaporize, and we smell them. The big one in caramel is called diacetyl, which smells intensely like butter because it's also in butter. And with massive exposure, diacetyl is responsible for the disease known as popcorn lung, but that's not a real hazard of eating caramel. If you over-caramelize sugar with too much heat, you start breaking these compounds down into chemicals that get gradually closer and closer to pure carbon, so the sugar turns bitter and black. That's burning. The other kind of non-enzymatic browning in food is the famous Maillard reaction, named after the French chemist who first described it in 1912. He was trying to replicate the natural process of protein synthesis in a lab, and then he stumbled on this thing. The Maillard reaction happens when sugar and amino acids react with each other in hot, dry conditions. Marshmallow is a great example because it is a sugar syrup foam stabilized with protein, like egg white or gelatin, which provides the amino acids. Between low to middle baking temperatures, the sugars and proteins break down, and parts of them recombine to make new compounds that are super unstable and lead to more compounds that are also unstable, and a whole crazy chain reaction unfolds, resulting in lots of complex chemicals with complex flavors. It really is too complicated to explain in much greater detail in this context. The particular compounds that create the brown color in Maillard reaction are known as melanoids, which is to say they're not melanin, but they're like melanin. Some of the compounds created by the Maillard reaction smell toasty. Some of them smell nutty. Others taste umami-y, and it all depends on the specific amino acids and the specific reducing sugars involved and the exact heat and the exact conditions. One useful thing to know is that the Maillard reaction is enhanced in high pH or alkaline conditions. That's why you soak pretzels in lye to make them Maillard faster. You get a super brown, thin piece of bread that is still soft on the inside because it browns so fast. Acidic, low pH conditions actually inhibit the Maillard reaction. The more yogurt you put in your non-dough, the less it's going to brown because of the acid. It's a big difference compared to caramelization. Caramelization is enhanced by extreme pH in either direction, basic or acidic. That alone may be a good enough reason to keep these two things linguistically separate. And yet, cooks often refer to either kind of non-enzymatic browning as caramelization. And generally speaking, I think that's fine, if you care what I think. Fact is, both kinds of browning are usually happening at the same time when you brown almost anything, because virtually all foods contain at least a little sugar and at least a little protein. Meat is mostly protein, but it naturally contains some sugar because animals run on glucose. Onions contain a ton of sugar, but also some protein because all known life forms contain protein. The more protein and sugar your food has, the more browning you're going to get. Both Maillard and caramelization are generally happening in most cooking at the same time. It's just a matter of which is the dominant reaction. But if you want to keep yourself out of most trouble, if you want to immunize yourself against attacks by pedants, just say browning. Whether it's caramelization, Maillard, enzymatic browning, just call it browning. It's all browning. That is all.